knew those offensive and defensive plays. But he started at the beginning of the year. They would take the ball, they would walk it over, give it to the next person, walk it down the court, give it to the next person, back and forth. And little by little, they did it faster and 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 faster, till they did it so fast the other team knew what was coming and they couldn't stop it. They couldn't stop it on either end of the court. And that's what John Wooden made John Wooden the best and made his UCLA teams, even though he may not have had the talent of some of the other teams, that's why he always won, because he always went back to basics. Here at Parker, I remember Dr. Jim, I was sitting in the front row, right here where this gentleman is, front row left, my first Parker seminar, and one of the things he said is always go back to basics. It's the basics that build your practice. You know, we can give you motivation, we can give you excitement, but you know, motivation is like a cappuccino. You drink it, you get a buzz, and a few minutes later you go to the bathroom, and what happens? You let it out. It goes right back down again. If you are just motivated this weekend and excited, what happens is you go back to your office, your practice may go up because you're excited and motivated, but then little by little by little by little by little, what happens? You drop back down into your comfort zone, and your practice goes right back to where it was before. The key is the action step. So this morning, what I want to do in my 40 minutes is I want to inspire you. I want to inspire you to go back to the office and be better. Be better at what you do. Be better at answering the telephone. Be better at processing your patients through your procedures. Be better with your scripts. Be better with your adjustment. Focus. Have present time consciousness, PTC. Be with that patient 100%, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Don't worry about the weekend. Don't worry about the vacation. Don't talk about anything except what's in your chiropractic plan for that patient. I had a young doctor from, I think it was Alberta, come down before the Anaheim seminar and wanted to spend a morning in my office. And he said, "Can I follow you around?" And I said, "Well, you know, I really can't have you follow me around. I'm too busy to introduce you to everybody, and I don't want to seem like I'm cold shouldering you. But I said, stand outside the doors and listen to everything I say. And then we'll talk about it at lunchtime." And he did, and he watched, and he observed, and he looked around the office. And lunchtime came around. I said, what did you learn? And he said, "You know what I learned? You say the same exact thing to every single patient." I go, "Duh, that's called scripting. That's what you do. Good morning, Mrs. Jones. Let's check your spine and see how you're doing today." I say that with every single patient. The only change is the name. Let's check your spine and see how you're doing today. I don't say, "How's the pain? How's this? How's this?" I know if they're hurting. I know if they're better or worse than the last time I saw them, but I never ask them how the pain is because I don't have a pain practice. I have a health and wellness practice. And when I see that patient walk in the door, I want to see that patient a lifetime. And not only them, but I want to see their spouse. I want to see their kids. And I have probably 10 families that I have 2, 3, 4 generations in my practice all at once. And once I had actually 5. And the matriarch of the family was 93 when she came to see me, had been born in Indiana, had never been to a medical doctor, had never been on a medication. And when she came to my office, I examined her very thoroughly. I took x-rays of her spine. I did a dipstick urinalysis, and she had a +3 sugar in her urine. So I sent her to my internist, and I said, "What do you think?" And she says, "You know, she's 93 years old. All her systems are working. All her organs are working. I don't know if she's going to last 6 months, a year, 2 years maximum. You know, I'm not going to give her any medication. Send her back to me." That lady passed away in her sleep at 102. Complete health, never had a drug in her body her entire life, and her 4 generations of her family are still under our care. So that's what I want to communicate with you today and explain to you how you can do this in your office. And you know, the funny thing is, if I can do it, you can do it. I have ADD, I have dyslexia, I can't type, my hands don't work with my mind. If I don't use PowerPoint, I forget where I am sometimes in my talk. So I've got a lot of disabilities, and yet I've become very successful because I felt that if someone else can do it, I can do it too. And I have always matched and mirrored the people that excited me and mentored me, and I knew I could do what they did, and I actually did. Now, I want to just spend a little time talking about procedure because that's what I teach, and this is the basics of what builds a successful practice. Yes, we want you to have the success consciousness, but it's the practice consciousness, the procedures, the scripts, your beliefs, and what you do in your office. And I want to tell you something. Charles Duhigg wrote a book called The Power of Habit. And if you don't realize it, 48% of what you do in your entire day, you do by habit. You don't think about it. You only think about the other 52%. When you drive to the office, do you think about driving to the office? No, you don't think about driving to the office. You get in that car, and that car gets to the office. You don't think about it. But what you think about is what's on the radio, what's on your CD player, what's going to happen today. Your mind, your cortex, is doing all the other things. But your limbic system is what's responsible for your memory, and that is just working like automatic pilot. So what we do in our office is automatic pilot. So if you want to change something, you're going to have to take an action step to make a change to have you improve. So our Parker Professional Procedures, our purpose is to process patients effectively through office procedures designed for simplicity, speed, efficiency, to get patients to stay, to pay, to get well, to refer, to maintain, and to return when old and new conditions appear and reappear. Wouldn't you like that to happen to every single patient that you have? If that happened, you would be so busy, within 6 months, you'd have to start hiring associates to take care of them, and you would just keep growing and growing and growing. And that's what happened in my practice. And the reason it happened in my practice is I already had the vision 5 years before I opened my practice. Because I graduated from chiropractic school. I was a school teacher. I have a bachelor's and master's in education. And while I was teaching in upstate New York in the middle of January 1972, I slipped and fell down a flight of stairs, and I broke 3 vertebrae and herniated a disc. Next morning, I ended up in the hospital, and I ended up in a body brace from under my arms to my hips for about 3 months. And the doctors told me that I would be in a wheelchair by the time I was age 50. I was 22 years old at the time. And I tried everything. I went to the ortho, I went to the neuro. Physical therapy helped, but it only helped while I was on the table. And as soon as I got back up, I couldn't stand up. So my big problem was I couldn't stand erect, upright on my feet. Now, my normal posture with my 3 compression fractures is this. But through chiropractic, keeping that spine moving, and a good exercise program, I've retrained my body to regain my posture. If I can do it, anybody else can do it here. So I had a good belief system in chiropractic. But I want to tell you something. The first chiropractor I went to didn't do a good job. He had me fill out a little 3x5 card. He laid me on the table, no exam, no x-rays, and went pow, 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 pow down my back. And by the next morning, I was back like this and couldn't move. And I said, I will never go to another chiropractor. And so my mother looked at me and said, I told you to go see Dr. Kraft over in Ellenville. You didn't want to drive the 30 miles. You went to the guy down the street, and he has a very bad reputation, but he was close. So I proceeded a couple weeks later when I started feeling better to go to Dr. Richard Kraft in Ellenville, New York. The experience was entirely different. I walked into the office. His wife, Dale, greeted me. She said, are you Gene Orlowski? Are you Eddie and Ellie Orlowski's son? We're so happy to meet you. Please come over and sign in as you will on each visit. And this was their office procedure. I filled out my forms. As I was sitting down writing everything out, I heard a big belly laugh in the back, and that was Dr. Dick Kraft. And so I went back, had a consultation, a very thorough exam, and he said, you know, we need to get some x-rays of your spine. I don't have x-rays in the office. We're going to send you to Ellenville Hospital right next door to get your films. And I will meet with you tomorrow. We'll give you a report of findings and review what's going on. And Dick Kraft was the first person that gave me hope. As soon as I walked in the office for my report of findings, he said, Gene, we can help you. It's going to take time. You're going to need to spend about 6 months of active care with me, but we're going to heal your spine. You're young, you're in good shape, we're going to get you well. And I believed him because he had an innate-to-innate communication from the sender to the receiver, from the doctor to the patient, that let me know in my heart I knew he could help me. And 6 months later, I was back on my feet, I was functioning. It was all cash, 3 times a week for 2 months, 2 times a week for 2 months, 1 time a week for 2 months. I don't remember how much it cost, and I don't care. He gave me my health back. And then he said, why don't you go back to school and become a chiropractor? And that's why I'm here today. I graduated school. Thank you. I graduated school in 1980. I wanted to be successful. I was already successful in a restaurant business. I was a successful teacher. I wanted to be successful. And so what I did is found the most successful chiropractor in California to associate with. And at the time, that was Dr. John Thie, had the largest chiropractic clinic. We had 11 associates. We had 34 assistants. On an average day, we saw 400 visits a day, and we averaged 20 new patients a day. Not a week, a day. So that's the clinic that I worked for 5 years before I opened my own practice. But I matched and mirrored everything he did. And on a Perceptor program, in the first 3 months, I saw 100 visits a week on a Perceptor program. In my first week of practice, I saw 125 visits. I collected $16,000 my first month, and I made 25% of that was mine. So I made $1,000 a week, and that was on $20 a visit. So it can be done, and you can build the practice of your dreams very quickly. John trained me, and I matched and mirrored everything he did, and that's what made me successful. So what I want to do is share, because he was on this program for 18 years. I didn't know that at the time. And he was one of Dr. Parker's original Parker Pals. And my class of Pals was the last group of Parker Pals before Dr. Jim passed away in 1997. So one of the things that he assigned me to do is to keep these principles and procedures going to the next generation. And now I'm teaching them to still the next generation. So let's talk about your practice. There's 5 important statistics in practice. These are the most important 5. I can look at these and I can tell the health of your practice very, very quickly. The first is new patients. Does everybody here want more new patients? Great. The second is patient office visits. This is the most important one because this is where you make 90% of the money in your office is on your patient visits. So we need to work on getting those patient visits up. We have to know what the charges are for the day. And we also have to know what the collections are because it's the collections that's going to determine what's going on. And I like the 90% rule. I give about 10% away in our practice, but I like the 90% rule, so I want to collect 90%. And the 5th, which actually gauges the health of your practice, is your patient visit average, and that is our theme for today. Now, your patient visit average is the number of patient visits divided by the number of new patients. And this is in a course of a month. So you take the number of patients, new patients you have for the month, the number of office visits, and divide it, and you'll get what we call your PVA. And this is the most effective statistic to gauge the health of your practice. Now, let's take a look at PVAs. Rob started talking a little bit about it earlier as he introduced me, but if you have a PVA of 12 or less, what that really means is you have a pain relief practice. When the pain's gone, the patient's gone. And so often, people will give their report of findings just for the pain relief care and then try to sell them on another part of care after they're finished with their initial care. And when you have to sell them in piecework, it doesn't work. You have to sell them up front. You have to explain the whole program and what your purpose is right from the start. If you have a PVA between 12 and 20, what it says is you have a weak report of findings. How many here do a written report of findings? Okay, I didn't see a lot of hands go up. One of the most important things you can do to improve your credibility is to give a written report that's prepared in advance, and every word that you're going to say with that patient is scripted and prepared ahead of time. Because what that does is gives you confidence, and the patient sees confidence. They want to know to go to a doctor that shows confidence. If you have a practice between 20 and 30, what that means is that you have a rehabilitative practice. You probably get them out of pain and keep them a little bit longer so that they have a chance of actually healing up. And if you have a PVA of 40 or above, that is where we want you because that's a true health and wellness practice. And that's where we want you to go because chiropractic should be the leader in health and wellness. We're not sickness and disease. We're not in that paradigm. You know, medicine is going to kill itself because it's in the sickness and disease paradigm. And it's not driven by doctors or the medical schools. It's driven by the pharmaceutical profession and the medical technology profession that wants all these expensive technologies in the hospital. Do you know medicine is the only area of our economy that technology has caused prices to go up rather than go down? Every other place they've gone down. I just put the top-of-the-line digital x-ray in our office. It's better than most hospitals. And the interesting thing is, when I looked at it 2 years ago, it was $129,000. And when I finally put it in my office, it was $68,000. It had dropped half in 2 years because technology improved. But if you look at medical care itself, what happens? We're all using MRI now. Everybody wants an MRI. You walk in, you had a little back pain, I want an MRI. So why would you want an MRI? It's $2,500. And $2,500 care, I can treat you for 5 months. You can be in my office 40 times. Why would you want to go get an MRI and use up all your insurance benefits and you don't have radiating pain, you don't have any of the medical indicators of having an MRI? Let's give it 6 weeks of care and see how it does, okay? So it's amazing the way medical technology has caused the price of medicine